Do you miss your mom, Dee Dee?
Yeah, I miss my mom.
When you look back, do you think there are ways that this could have been handled differently?
Absolutely, absolutely. I look at things in hindsight, and I realize that there were other options besides murder, but I was so sheltered that I couldn't see them at the time.
You went through the most horrific abuse, but why did you not expose your mum's lies to the police? Why did you take it as far as what you did?
Honestly, I didn't know the extent of the abuse myself. Some things were very obvious, like the physical abuse, but there was other things in the medical abuse side of it that if it wasn't very visual, like my mother said I had cancer. You can't see cancer, and my mother was telling myself and others that I was on cancer medication. So there was things like those little things that I didn't even know until upon arrest after the crime.
Doesn't matter. No matter what people believe about her, victim. A fact about Gypsy-Rose is that she is a convicted felon. She is, in fact, a convicted murderer. She did spend time in prison for this offense.
What if everything you thought you knew about Gypsy-Rose Blanchard was a lie? For years, she's been portrayed as a victim, a helpless girl trapped in a nightmare orchestrated by her abusive mother, Dee Dee Blanchard. The documentaries, the dramatizations, the sympathetic headlines, they all painted Gypsy as the tragic heroine who broke free from her torment. But today, we are stripping away the excuses, the sympathy, and the carefully crafted facade. Because this isn't just a story about survival. It's a story about manipulation, about premeditation, about a young woman who played everyone, her boyfriend, the media, and maybe even you. This is not the Gypsy-Rose Blanchard you think you know. And by the end of this video, you'll see the cracks in her carefully constructed narrative. This is the truth, the real story. Let's get into it.
I didn't hate her.
You wanted her dead.
Yes, but it was not because I hated her. It was because I wanted to escape her.
Let's start with the image that captured the public sympathy and cemented Gypsy-Rose Blanchard as the so-called victim in the eyes of many. A sweet, frail girl, the soft-spoken young woman, seemingly trapped in a body that was failing her. Gypsy was the girl everyone pitied. Her bald head, her large glasses, her wheelchair, and the heartbreaking story of a life spent battling illness after illness. Cancer, muscular dystrophy, epilepsy. The list went on. Her mother, Dee Dee Blanchard, painted the picture perfectly, and the world ate it up. But here's the thing. Gypsy wasn't just a passive participant in this facade. Behind the wheelchair and the medical drama, there was a more calculated side to Gypsy. Let's not ignore that she knew how to play the part when it suited her. She wore the wigs, posed for photos, and accepted the trips to Disneyland, the free housing, and the endless gifts from charitable organizations. She knew what was happening. Some of you might say, but she was under her mother's control. Sure. Dee Dee undoubtedly orchestrated much of this deception. But let's not act like Gypsy didn't understand what was happening. In court documents, medical records, and even Gypsy's own words, it's clear that she became comfortable in this lie. Comfortable enough to let it carry her through life, avoiding hard truths and hard decisions. She wasn't just a puppet, she was a complicit.
My mother would often tell other people and tell me that I would only have a life expectancy of 7, and then it was 15, and then it was 20. I think to some degree I knew it was a facade. However, I didn't know the malicious intent behind the facade.
And here's where things take a darker turn. After her mother's murder, when Gypsy was sitting in an interrogation room, she declared, "I didn't do anything wrong. I am a good girl. I didn't kill nobody."
People seeing you in handcuffs, they give you this weird look, and I'm like, I didn't do anything. I'm like, okay, number one, I didn't kill nobody. I don't do drugs. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I didn't do nothing. I'm a good girl.
That's a bold statement for someone who had just spent years deceiving doctors, friends, neighbors, and even law enforcement. She conveniently left out the part where she not only maintained the lies her mother fed her, but also actively used them to gain sympathy and rewards. Let's face it, Gypsy didn't just go along with Didi's lies out of fear. She went along with them because they benefited her. And when the opportunity arose to break free, she didn't choose to tell the truth. She didn't choose to ask for help or escape in a way that didn't leave someone dead. Instead, she chose manipulation, a theme that's run through every chapter of this story.
However, if you actually do some research and watch her interviews, she's not a good person. She's a master manipulator, and she learned by the best one there was, her mother. There's literally an interview where she's like, I learned to be the best liar with no conscience, no remorse, nothing, best manipulator from my mother. She learned all her tricks from her mother. If you watch her videos, anytime they ask about her ex-boyfriend, who her mom for her, just threw his whole entire life away, has life in prison, she's like, can't worry about that.
So let's call this what it is. Gypsy-Rose Blanchard wasn't just a victim. She was a co-conspirator in a long con that spanned for years. And when the facade started to crack, she made a choice that would lead to bloodshed. Now let's talk about Nicolas Godejohn, the man Gypsy chose to pull the trigger on her plan. Nicolas wasn't just any boyfriend. He was a man with autism, a low IQ, and a long history of mental health struggles. He was someone who depended on disability checks to survive, someone who saw the world differently, and someone who was desperate for love and validation. In short, Nicolas was vulnerable.
What is evil is that Gypsy-Rose Blanchard used a man with autism, a low IQ, and other mental health issues that was collecting a disability check permanently to unalive her mom. She manipulated him for over 2.5 years. That is what evil is.
But Gypsy didn't see vulnerability as a red flag. She saw it as an opportunity. Over the course of 2.5 years, Gypsy worked on Nicolas. Their relationship began with flirtatious messages and fantasy role-playing, but it quickly evolved into something far more sinister. Gypsy didn't just confide in Nicolas about her life with Didi. She used him. She didn't ask him to help her escape. She asked him to kill.
Can't stand him. Because I went from one abusive person to another. I wish he would have been more responsible or told that I could walk.
One of the most damning pieces of evidence in this case is a video that Gypsy sent to Nicolas. In it, she walks through her mother's bedroom, pointing out where Didi sleeps. She even mimes the act of stabbing, leaving no room for interpretation. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment crime. It was premeditated. Gypsy knew exactly what she was doing, and she knew Nicolas would do anything for her.
Let's also talk about the fact that she sent Nicolas Godejohn, a man with autism, with a low IQ collecting permanent disability, a video instructing him how to unalive her mom.
Think about the level of manipulation it takes to convince someone to commit murder. Gypsy didn't just ask Nicolas to kill her mother. She made him feel like it was his duty. She built a narrative where he was her knight in shining armor, saving her from an evil captor. Nicolas, who struggled with understanding social cues and consequences, believed her. He believed he was rescuing her. And what did Gypsy do once the murder was done? She threw him under the bus. During her interrogation, Gypsy said, "He's the one who did it, not me. I can't kill anyone." But let's not forget who unlocked the door that night, who led Nicolas into the house, and who orchestrated the entire plan. Gypsy didn't wield the knife, but she wielded the power, and she used it mercilessly.
I texted him when my mother went to sleep. I let him in the door. There were gloves waiting for him, plastic gloves, by the door.
You put them there?
I put them there. He came in, and he was wearing a hoodie and dark clothing and a scary t-shirt that had evil clowns on it. And I handed him the knife, and he said, "Get your ass in the bathroom now." And I went in the bathroom, closed the door behind me, and kind of got down in a kneeling position and put my hands over my ears so I couldn't hear anything.
There's no detail that's particularly hard to stomach. Before the murder, Gypsy said Nicolas told her she needed to shave her legs and present herself to him naked. And she did it. She followed his instructions, not out of fear, But because it was all part of the plan, she knew how to keep Nicholas under her control, how to make him feel powerful and important, and she used that to get exactly what she wanted.
Knocked on the door 3 times, scratched the door twice, and that was code to let him in. But before I could let him in, he commanded me that I must shave my legs and any body hair and present myself to him naked.
Not right away.
Okay, what happens?
She wanted to shave her private part.
Okay.
And her legs.
Okay, she wanted to shave her private part and her legs?
Yes, for me.
Okay. She ever done that before? Is this something new?
Usually her mom does not let her shave her legs.
So let me ask you this. Does this sound like someone who was manipulated? Or does it sound like someone who was in complete control? Gypsy knew Nicholas's vulnerabilities. She knew his limitations, and she used them to her advantage, with devastating consequences. Nicholas is now serving life in prison for a crime he would never have committed without Gypsy's influence. And Gypsy? She's serving a mere 10 years or fraction of the punishment for a crime she orchestrated from the start to finish. This wasn't just manipulation, it was exploitation. And it's time we stop pretending that Gypsy Rose Blanchard was anything less than a mastermind of this tragedy. Let's break that down. Gypsy's claims of being a good girl doesn't line up with the evidence we have. Her actions before, during, and after the murder tell a very different story. This wasn't someone swept up in an uncontrollable situation. This was someone who made deliberate, calculated choices. She knew how to manipulate not just Nicholas Godejohn, but the entire narrative surrounding her life. After Didi's murder, Gypsy leaned heavily into the victim role, framing herself as someone who had been trapped and abused for years with no other way out.
Why did she tell you you were going in a wheelchair?
I did get into a motorcycle accident with my grandfather, and it skinned my knee. And she took me to the hospital and then told me that the doctor gave her a wheelchair, and I have to be in a wheelchair now.
Forever?
Forever. She had me use a walker before the wheelchair, and then after that motorcycle accident, put in the wheelchair.
Why did she tell you you had to be on a walker?
She said that I had muscular dystrophy.
But did you feel any different the day before you got the walker than the day you did have the walker?
No, sir.
You were able to run around?
Pretty much, yes.
And would you forget to get it and run into the kitchen?
There would be times that I'd forget to grab it and then go to walk, and then my mom would catch me and be like, use your walker.
But here's a part we need to address. Her claims of abuse have never been fully verified. Sure, Didi's behavior was controlling. There's no denying that. For starters, Didi was never formally diagnosed with Munchausen by proxy. In fact, Gypsy's medical records show that she was being treated for a chromosomal disorder called 1q21.1 deletion syndrome. Many of the health issues Didi claimed Gypsy had could be linked to this legitimate diagnosis. So while Didi's actions may have been overbearing, they weren't necessarily fabricated to the extent Gypsy has claimed. And yet, Gypsy took this narrative and ran with it. She built a story that cast herself as a helpless victim of her mother's supposed mental illness. Was Didi controlling? Yes, probably to an unhealthy degree. But did Gypsy exaggerate her mother's actions to justify what she did? What's so troubling is how effectively Gypsy played on public sympathy. She knew exactly how to frame herself as the innocent, fragile girl who just wanted to escape her mother's grasp.
I'm glad that I'm out of that situation. She would force me to be in a wheelchair, force me to go to doctor's appointments that I didn't need.
Did you understand that you being sick was necessary to keep up what she built? Because you got a house, donations, you got different things from people for being sick. So that was a source of income for her.
And I had no idea that I was a part of that.
You didn't know that you were a cash cow?
No.
So did she tell you that you were intellectually challenged?
My mother told the doctors that I was mentally incompetent. She's got the mind of like a child. She told me if I was to contact anybody and tell them that she would take a hammer to my fingers. And she had taken handcuffs and a dog leash and tied it together and tied me to the bed. I just don't understand how somebody can do this to their child.
But here's the truth. Gypsy wasn't powerless. She had options. Options that didn't involve manipulating someone to kill for her. The good girl image she presented was just another layer of manipulation. So when Gypsy said, "I didn't kill nobody," it wasn't an admission of innocence. It was a deflection, a way to distance herself from the act while still reaping the benefits of her plan. This wasn't the behavior of someone who was naive or desperate. This was the behavior of someone who knew exactly what she was doing and how to make others believe her version of events. Gypsy later claimed that she wasn't in the right state of mind when she made the video. But here's the problem with that excuse. If she wasn't in the right state of mind, how was she able to plan this crime over the course of 2.5 years? How was she able to convince Nicholas to go through with it? The video evidence strips away any pretense of Gypsy being a helpless victim. It shows her as someone who was actively involved in the planning and the execution of her mother's murder. And no amount of "I wasn't in the right state of mind" can change that. Nicholas wasn't a hardened criminal. He wasn't someone who came up with this plan on his own. He was someone who believed he was helping the woman he loved escape an abusive situation. Gypsy built him up as her savior, her protector, her hero, and he believed her. After the murder, Nicholas's father spoke out about what happened. "She used him," he said. "She may have had feelings for him at first, but once the plan was done, she threw him under the bus."
Everything's hard. My son, Nick, he his side of the story told, and because her side is getting all this attention left and right, and he can get nothing. I believe Gypsy was just using him. She may have had a slight feelings for him, but when she got him in, reeled him in to her plan, then she pretty much started losing interest in him until after the deed was done, and then boom, threw him under the bus. I felt compassion because of what her mother did to her, but and in retrospect, what she learned all those traits from her mom and turned around and used them on my son and to get out of her situation. All the press and everything that was being focused on this case, it just made me become more of a hermit. I didn't want to leave the house. Afraid somebody's going to notice me and, "Hey, you're a Bodhi Chan," or whatever.
And that's exactly what Gypsy did. In her interrogation, she made it clear that she saw Nicholas as nothing more than a means to an end. She said, "He's the one who did it, not me. I can't kill anyone." But let's not forget, Gypsy was the one who unlocked the door that night. She was the one who created the video showing Nicholas exactly what to do. She was the one who orchestrated the entire plan. Nicholas may have been the one holding the knife, but Gypsy was the one pulling the string. Even now, years after Didi's murder, Gypsy continues to manipulate the narrative. She's crafted a new image for herself, one that portrays her as an advocate, an author, and a reformed woman. She's active on social media, sharing photos of her new life and updates about her baby shower.
No matter what Gypsy Rose calls herself, an author, an influencer, an advocate, doesn't matter. No matter what people believe about her, victim. A fact about Gypsy Rose is that she is a convicted felon. She is, in fact, a convicted murderer. She did spend time in prison for this offense. So regardless of what she wants to call herself or what people want to think about her, that is a fact. So there's that.
It's as if she wants the world to forget what she did. But let's not forget, Gypsy Rose Blanchard is a convicted murderer. She may not have held the knife, but she was the mastermind behind her mother's death. And while she's carefully curating her public image, the consequences of her actions are still very real for the people she left behind. For Nicholas Godijon, the scars of Gypsy's manipulation are permanent. He's spending the rest of his life in prison for a crime he was manipulated into committing. For Didi's family, the loss is immeasurable. And for those who see through Gypsy's facade, her attempts to rewrite history are nothing short of infuriating. Gypsy's social media presence is a constant reminder of her ability to manipulate. She's not just moving on with her life. She's trying to rewrite it. She wants to be seen as the victim, the survivor, the girl who overcame adversity. But the truth is far darker. Gypsy Rose Blanchard is not a hero. She's not an advocate. She's a manipulator who knows how to play the game, and she's still playing it. This case isn't just about a controlling mother or a tragic love story. It's about accountability. It's about seeing through the facade and recognizing that Gypsy Rose Blanchard is not the victim she wants us to believe she is. So next time you see a post glorifying Gypsy as a survivor, remember Nicholas, remember Didi, and remember that behind every lie, there is a deeper truth waiting to be uncovered. Thank you for watching, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Was Gypsy a victim or was she the mastermind? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. And as always, stay curious and stay critical.